Hi friends, what if the first thing you drank in the morning wasn't coffee or tea or lemon water, but a tall glass of celery juice? Now, don't be so skeptical. You've probably seen it all over Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, and even celebrity health routines advocate for celery juice. However, have you thought about whether or not it's safe? Did you know that celery contains compounds that fluoresce under UV light? Yes, celery. But this isn't new. By the end of this video, you understand how celery became interwoven in our culture, if it's truly healthy, and how celery can change your biochemistry to affect something as basic as your blood pressure and your blood sugars. Now, the story of this humble stock winds through ancient tombs, Olympic crowns, American presidents, and modern science labs. And behind its crunchy snap lies a bitter truth, literally, that could explain why cultures from Greece to China used it as medicine long before detox became a hashtag. However, is celery really a blood pressure solution? My friend called me up the other day and said ever since she started drinking celery juice, her blood pressure has been better. Now, of course, she used to drink coffee, but really, she wasn't just drinking coffee. You know what was in her coffee? A whole bunch of other stuff. Now, is it the celery juice or the fact that she stopped drinking the toxic stuff with her coffee? And I've noticed these days, and I'm sure you have too, that coffee isn't just coffee anymore. There's so much junk in it that I think people are drinking the stuff and adding some coffee flavoring. But I gave it some thought because she's not the first person who's claimed that celery is healthy. Now, one day I was in my mom's backyard and she was, doing her gardening thing. So she plucked a piece of Chinese celery leaf and ate it just right then and there. Here, try a piece. I was actually still shocked that she actually ate it just like that without washing it. And I replied, no thanks, Mom. You should learn to eat it. It's good for diabetes, was her response. I was actually 7 years old, and I remember that day as if it was yesterday. Celery, or Apium graveolens, originated from around the Mediterranean basin, and it traveled all over Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. Now, wild celery had a strong and bitter, almost inedible flavor, closer to parsley than the stalks that we eat now. Ancient Egyptians, they placed celery in tombs. Ramses II's tomb had celery garlands. Now, why is that? Well, they believed celery connected the living to their gods. And how about the Greeks and Romans? They literally crowned athletes with celery leaves, a sign of both victory and vitality. And by the Han Dynasty, China was already linked to the Mediterranean through indirect trade networks, most famously the Silk Road. Now, traders didn't just move silk and spices. They also exchanged plants, seeds, and agricultural techniques. So celery likely entered Asia via Persia and then Central Asia and then Western China during this period. Hippocrates describes celery as a nerve soother. Ancient Chinese medicine used a variety of celery, Chinese celery, smaller and leafier, for blood pressure and digestion. That's what my mom grew. In Ayurveda, bitter foods like celery were believed to balance pitta, cooling the body. Celery's bitterness wasn't a flaw. It was actually thought of as medicine. Bitter compounds like apigenin signaled to the body that digestion was beginning, priming the pancreas and gallbladder. During the Middle Ages, celery spread across Northern Europe, and it was still wild and bitter. By the 1600s, Italian farmers selectively bred it, reducing the bitterness and thickening the stalk. So by the 18th century, it became fashionable in France and England, and celery is served at banquets as both garnish and medicine. So some writers even called it an aphrodisiac. So the celery that you're used to eating isn't the original type of celery. And when Europeans colonized Americans, they brought that celery across the ocean. But it didn't just stay a garnish. It climbed into the White House. In fact, Thomas Jefferson grew celery at Monticello. Now, his farm records listed among his experimental crops. And John Adams, well, his household bought celery regularly. It was literally a status food in early America. And by the 19th century, celery was so expensive that families displayed in a glass case celery vases at dinner parties. Now, having celery meant you had wealth. And Teddy Roosevelt, he reportedly served celery dishes at the White House. Can you imagine that? This common celery was once a bitter herb that then became an American luxury. So the science of the 20th century is finally peeling back why celery had been medicine all along. And did you know that at one time, soda was a health tonic? Celery soda, Dr. Brown's Celery, was marketed in the 19th century as a health tonic. And in some places in New York, I heard it's still sold. Now, during Prohibition, bartenders actually used celery sticks and Bloody Marys to make the alcohol look healthier. Now, no amount of celery is going to make your alcohol healthy. It's not going to make up for the alcohol in the alcohol. But some celery, or really anything green, is better than nothing. Now, have you heard that eating celery has negative calories? That's pretty much a myth. Celery is so fibrous and watery that chewing and digesting it nearly cancels its energy value. Well, that's not quite true. However, it does highlight how low calorie and filling it is. And you remember I mentioned that celery contains compounds that fluoresce under UV light. And scientists, they use that actually to study plant biochemistry. So around 2010, wellness influencers started claiming that celery juice was a miracle cleanse to detox the liver, heal all sorts of stuff, lose weight, fight chronic illness, etc. So millions of people began to drink it every morning on an empty stomach. Even celebrities endorsed it. But what does the science actually say? So let's separate the myth from the evidence. Unfortunately, all the hype around celery isn't eating it as a stock, but juicing it. So what's actually in celery juice? You guessed it, water. 95% of it is water. It's great for hydration. Then you got micronutrients like vitamin K, which is important for blood clotting and bone health, DNA synthesis. You got potassium, which is important for blood pressure regulation, and vitamin C. You also have phytochemicals like apigenin, antioxidants, and all these are studied for its anti-cancer and neuroprotective effects. Luteolin is anti-inflammatory, and it may support brain health. Phthalate, compounds that relax faster, smooth muscles, as well as lower blood pressure. Then you have nitrates that are converted to nitric oxide to improve your blood flow. So yes, there are real chemistry in celery and real science that backs up some health properties. But the way you consume it really makes a difference. So should you juice it or just chew on it like a whole celery stick? Well, let's think of the value of eating celery as a whole stick versus juice. How is juicing different? Juicing removes the fiber. And what's the value of fiber? Well, fiber has a phytonutrients, but fiber itself also slows down sugar absorption. It feeds gut bacteria. It stabilizes blood sugar. So when you eat the entire whole celery, you get more satiety as well as a better gut health. But the reality is, because the fiber makes people full earlier, you're not going to get as much hydration if you chew on it, nor as many antioxidants unless you concentrate the juice extract. So the value of juicing equals concentrated antioxidants, faster hydration, but you're missing fiber and the phytonutrients attached to the fiber. So when you eat celery, or really anything, the first place that it goes when it passes your gut is your liver. And does it help your liver detox? Well, it depends on how you look at it. Now, if you think of hydration as a way to detox, then yes, it absolutely does, because you will build up toxins whether you eat or not. Just to live makes your body produce trash, and that trash is toxic to your metabolism. If you think detoxing is to give your liver antioxidants and minerals and vitamins, then you are also correct when you drink celery juice. That will give you an abundance of different antioxidants, minerals, and essential vitamins. And is there any benefit to drinking it on an empty stomach? Yeah, I don't think so. I think marketing exaggerates the benefits of eating essential nutrients because most people don't do it. They don't eat enough of them in their regular diet. And when you get these essential nutrients in abundance, because celery juice may be the only plant you eat that's whole, then you're actually helping your body detox, not just from hydration, but also essential nutrients and phytonutrients that aren't considered essential. And this all helps your liver do its job. Your liver detoxes constantly, but it won't be able to do it effectively or efficiently unless you give it equipment. It can't just magically produce this stuff. And that equipment is found in your food, in whole plant foods, including celery.
Hi friends, I am so thrilled that you want to take charge of your health and take charge of your food. Now, I know nutrition can be complex, but it doesn't have to be. And I'm here to support you in this lifelong journey. So if you point your camera app to this QR code, it'll take you to a link for a free handout that I created just for you. And if you like it, if you want to see other handouts, please go to the link in my show notes and then you can leave me your feedback on what I could do to help you in your journey. Okay, back to the video now.
Remember how I told you how my friend was so adamant that drinking celery juice lowered her blood pressure? Well, there's actually some science that backs that, and I don't doubt it. Because when it comes to blood pressure, if you're gonna fill your morning with like toxic byproducts in your coffee, then sure, that's going to elevate it. Several trials, especially with Chinese celery, because that is more to the true wild celery than the American celery, it shows modest reductions in systolic blood pressure. Celery may help lower blood pressure, likely due to the compounds like NBP, which relaxes your blood vessel walls. Now, NBP is short for 3-N-butyl-phthalate, also called N-butyl-phthalate. It's a naturally occurring phthalate compound found in celery, especially in its seeds. And you can also get it in essential oils. NBP causes vasodilation because NBP can relax the smooth muscles in your blood vessels. This improves blood flow and potentially it can help you lower your blood pressure. Now, inside your blood vessels is the endothelial cells. So it improves your endothelial function because it also enhances nitric oxide. Nitric oxide helps your blood vessels to open up more easily. It is a strong antioxidant and it is anti-inflammatory because NBP reduces the oxidative stress and the inflammatory signaling that occurs in the vascular tissue, transporting all the other toxins that your body makes and that you get exposed to from your food to pollution. It also offers mitochondrial protection. Some studies suggest it supports the mitochondria under ischemic stress, so under low oxygen. So this molecule is what gives celery much of its direct aroma and taste, that sharp, clean celery smell. And it also has biological effects, particularly on the vascular nervous system. So in both animal studies and in small human trials, celery seed extracts containing NBP have been shown to lower systolic blood pressure by 10 millimeters of mercury and lower diastolic blood pressure by 8 millimeters of mercury. But if you've ever tried it, you know that celery is saltier than a lot of other vegetables. Celery has more sodium than most vegetables. Sometimes that salt is potassium, but it has so many other compounds that it counteracts the effect of the sodium. And this is why celery, despite its modest sodium content, may have a net positive blood pressure lowering effect on people. And in human clinical trials, even celery seed extract taken daily for 4 weeks lowered systolic blood pressure by 10 millimeters of mercury. And again, diastolic blood pressure by 8 millimeters of mercury. But that amount would be far more celery seed than what is eaten as food. People are often unaware that one of the earliest signs of high blood pressure is having sexual dysfunction. In celery seed, a smaller dose actually improves sexual dysfunction in women over 6 weeks, suggesting that these seeds may have vascular and hormonal effects, even at culinary doses. But that is the celery seed. So what's the evidence on celery juice? Well, that's a lot weaker, mostly anecdotal or small uncontrolled reports, but it may have still mild lower blood pressuring effect. Now, NBP isn't just studied for blood pressure. In China, synthetic version of NBP called di-NBP or butylphthalate is an improved drug for ischemic strokes. It improves cerebral blood flow, supposedly. It reduces inflammation and protects neurons. And this compound is most concentrated, again, in the seeds, but it's present in lower amounts in the celery stalks and leaves. And all of that can be made to extract essential oils. Keep in mind, typical food doses are much lower than pharmaceutical doses, but it may still help to open the blood vessels. However, the problem is when you super concentrate bioactive components, even if it's all natural, there is potentially side effects. So too much of a good thing is not necessarily good for us. There are rare cases of celery-induced hyperthyroidism that has occurred with very high supplemental doses. People have also become allergic, especially in those with pollen allergies. That can be pretty severe. You know, the good news is heating celery eliminates a lot of these symptoms. Now, remember I said that celery contains a molecule that reacts to UV light? That's called psoralen, which can increase sun sensitivity and lead to photodermatitis, or turning red as a lobster under the sun. That is not good. So animal studies suggest that apigenin actually improves insulin sensitivity. Unfortunately, in humans, there needs to be more evidence. And some people are excited about the cancer aspect of celery because two of the molecules, including apigenin and luteolin, they have shown promise to inhibit cancer cell growth in the lab. Unfortunately, it hasn't quite translated into clinical practice because you can't just eat celery, right? But most people agree that diet rich in flavonoids are protective against cancer. Now, my channel is all about inflammation. Celery extracts show antioxidant and anti-inflammatory activity, and that possibly explains traditional uses for or arthritis. You know, all this ancient wisdom, they're not totally wrong, but we really don't invest enough in food to figure out the science. And it's really hard to do that because nobody is just going to eat celery and nothing else. In the meantime, just know that when you drink celery juice, you're drinking a low-fat, nutrient-dense green machine that's concentrating a lot of water, vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients, as well as antioxidants. And this all helps your body naturally detox. Honestly, for me, celery juice is not so tasty because it's kind of bitter. Bitter compounds activate receptors on the tongue that also signal the gut. The bitter reflex kind of stimulates the digestive secretions like stomach acid, bile, pancreatic enzymes. That's why bitter foods reduce sweet cravings. Now, drinking bitter celery juice in the morning, it may reset your palate for the day. It may reduce your cravings for those sugary, fatty breakfasts that people tend to eat. Now, this brings us back to full circle because maybe celery juice, it may not be magic, but part of much of this story is about balance in our diet. The thing is, celery juice is not just an American fad. In China, the seed and stalks are used for blood pressure. In India, the bitter tonics are used to cool the body. In Greece, athletes literally were crowned with celery wreaths, a symbol of strength. And here in the US and across Europe, it went from a luxury food to soda to garnish. And now, after thousands of years, it's on your kitchen counter and in your blender. A glass of celery juice will help you detox because your body needs these nutrients, but it will also help you hydrate, get antioxidants, and help you with your blood pressure control, but it may not be enough. It's better actually to combine the juice with the whole celery stalk and eat it with a meal, right? Keep the fiber. And there are other ways to do it. You can add celery to stir fries, to soups, to hummus, to dips, to salads. And if you want the bitterness, go to a Chinese supermarket or Asian grocery store. Chinese celery is much more potent than the mild varieties when it comes to nutrition. You can sip your celery juice. You don't have to gulp it all at once. And remember, you're not just following a trend. You're doing what ancient people have done. You're participating in traditions of warriors, healers, and even American presidents. Proof that sometimes the simplest plants can carry the richest stories. So what if you drink celery juice in the morning? You're not just sipping on green water. You're actually reviving a ritual that has outlasted empires, crossed oceans, and still challenges us to taste life's bitterness and to appreciate that, to find our health hidden in the bitterness. However, personally, I think it's much more beneficial and fun to shake it up and cook with celery. So, number one, how about garlic celery stir fry? It takes about 5 minutes. You need 4 or 5 celery stalks. You thinly slice it in a diagonal cut. Crush some garlic, just mash it up, and you need a teaspoon of sesame oil or olive oil. And don't forget some spices like chili flakes. So I usually would kind of heat up the oil a little bit in a pan. I would add the garlic and don't make it brown. Stir fry a little bit to get it fragrant. I would then toss the celery in it, wait about 2 to 3 minutes, and I like mine crunchy, so I would take that out. And that would go great with some whole grains and tofu and some other foods. It's light, it's crunchy, and you're vasodilating. Now, if you have bad teeth, that you may not like that. So this is where you can make a celery soup, right? Make it cream-free. So you need about 6 celery stalks. You chop it up, 1 small onion, 2 cups of some vegetable broth, and a teaspoon of oil to kind of let it bind together, and some herbs like thyme and parsley. So generally, I first saute the onion until it's wilted. Then I would add the celery, and then you're gonna add the broth, and you simmer it about 15 minutes. You cool that down, and then you blend it, and you can season it to taste. Now, that's a comforting soup. It's low in sodium, and homemade broth is best. Celery snack, you can eat it with the nut butter. I used to love doing that. You dip your celery in some almond or peanut butter or sunflower seed butter, or you can sprinkle some cinnamon or hemp seeds on it. Now you got your carbs, your fiber, and some healthy fat, right? Don't go overboard on the fat. So don't forget to try the celery seeds. Celery seeds, they do have a stronger flavor, and they're richer in NBP, the compound that can help your blood vessels relax. Try a celery seed lemon dressing. You need a teaspoon of celery seeds, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, 1 tablespoon of lemon juice, and a tablespoon of Dijon mustard. I would add 1 to 2 dates to taste if you like it sweeter. Pour it over salads or steamed vegetables. It's a bright, zesty flavor that helps to relax your blood pressure. Celery seed tea. It's a simple infusion. All you need is a 1/4 teaspoon of celery seeds. Crush it lightly, add some hot water, and then you steep the seeds for about 5 to 10 minutes. You strain it, and then you can sip it and just swallow it. It's earthy, it's aromatic, and and it supports your circulation. Celery seeds used as a spice rub for your roasted vegetables. 1 teaspoon celery seed, half a teaspoon of black pepper, half a teaspoon of garlic powder, half a teaspoon of onion powder, a pinch of paprika, and about a tablespoon of olive oil. That could be optional to help you rub it, right? You mix the spices, you rub it on cauliflower, carrots, tofu before you roast it. And it adds aroma and enhances nitrate-rich vegetables. Celery seed bread toppings, which, a lot of people like to eat bread. So you can put 2 tablespoons of hemp seeds or sesame seeds, half a teaspoon of celery seeds. You toast the mixture slightly in a dry pan for about a minute or two. Sprinkle over avocado toast, right? Or your soups or your salads. It's an easy way to boost your celery seed intake to get that MBP. And if you want to learn more about powerful foods and spices, watch the next video.